The stranger before the ceremony. The alarms didn't sound, but something was off. Security cameras flickered one by one, catching a lone figure crossing the memorial courtyard. An old man, moving slow but steady. No pass, no escort, no hesitation. His left hand trembled, the kind of shake that comes from old shrapnel, not age. The scent of rain hung in the air, though the sky was clear. He stopped beneath the glass wall, thousands of names etched in steel and memory. Wind rattled the flags above. His hand reached out. Fingers brushed the carved letters, leaving a faint smudge on polished stone. "I told you I'd make it back," he whispered. The microphones caught it just before the feed glitched. Every light dimmed for half a second, as if the building itself paused to listen. Then the image froze. The system reset, and the morning began. Morning light slid across the marble steps of the Liberty War Memorial Museum. Flags stirred in the cold air. Security radios crackled with static. Inside, staff hurried to prepare for the 71st anniversary of Operation Iron Valley. The battle no one was supposed to survive. An old man walked through the entrance unnoticed. Sergeant Eli Monroe, 84 years old. He moved with the calm of someone who had done this before. A plain gray coat, a faded cap bearing an emblem long erased from history. In his hand, a folded paper, creased from years of being kept, unfolded and folded again. The floor smelled of lemon polish and something older, like dust and memory compressed into stone. He stopped at the heart of the atrium. Before him stood a wall-sized photograph. 6 soldiers frozen mid-climb, smoke curling behind them, their faces half lost in motion, blur and dust. Eli stared at the one in the center. Younger, hard-jawed, eyes fixed forward. He lifted his hand. Fingertips brushed glass that was colder than he expected. "Sir, that section isn't open yet." Officer Delane appeared beside him, one hand resting on his belt. "Restricted area, VIP access only." Visitors slowed, sensing trouble. Delane's tone sharpened. "Sir, I'll need you to step back." Eli didn't move, didn't even blink. Delane leaned closer. "Do you know who these men were?" "I knew them all," Eli said quietly. The air tightened. Someone near the stairs snickered. Delane forced a thin smile. "Sure you did. Let's move along." Eli turned, eyes pale steel. "They died up there," he said. "I brought them down." The murmur spread through the small crowd. A local news camera swiveled toward them. The red recording light blinked. Delane's jaw tensed. "All right, sir, that's enough." He reached for Eli's arm. Across the upper balcony, Lieutenant Avery Cole looked up from her monitor. The museum's communications officer. She had spent the morning coordinating the press feed. Now, the feed showed an old man standing beneath the Iron Valley display. Something in his stance caught her attention. Not confusion. Not protest. Recognition. She zoomed the camera in, comparing the live feed to the archival photo beside it. Same build. Same scar above the right brow. Her pulse quickened. "Down below," Delane spoke louder. "You can admire it later, sir. The ceremony's about to start." Eli shook his head. "This picture's wrong." Delane frowned. "Wrong how? It says June." Eli's voice stayed even, but it rained that day. A ripple of awkward laughter passed through the crowd. Eli didn't flinch. He pointed at the clouds behind the soldiers in the image. That wasn't weather. That was mortar smoke. Avery leaned closer to the monitor. How could he possibly know that? Her instincts kicked in. She grabbed her tablet and hurried down the stairwell, heart pounding. Her shoes echoed sharp against the steps. By the time she reached the atrium, Delane had already started to escort the old man toward the exit. "Wait." Her voice carried enough command to halt them both. Delane turned. "Ma'am, this gentleman doesn't have clearance." "He's not interfering," Avery said, breath steadying. "I'll handle this." Delane stepped aside reluctantly. Avery met Eli's gaze. "You said you knew them. All of them." He nodded once. "They were Echo Recon, 5th Infantry, Iron Valley." Her eyes widened. That designation didn't exist in any public record. It was buried in classified material she'd only seen referenced in restricted indexes. Delane frowned. "What's going on here?" Avery ignored him. "Sir, can I get your name?" Eli hesitated, the word dragging itself out like something long buried. "Monroe. Eli Monroe." The name hit her like static. She had seen it before, on a casualty list marked MIA, presumed dead. Above them, the loudspeakers crackled. "All personnel, positions for ceremony rehearsal." Avery turned away from them, tablet in hand, fingers trembling as she opened the facial recognition tool. She imported the still image and waited. The progress bar crawled across the screen. A soft tone chimed. Match found 91% confidence. Subject: Sergeant Eli Monroe, missing in action, 1952, Operation Iron Valley. Her breath caught. She stared at the impossible data on her screen. The record said Monroe's remains were never recovered. That meant this man, the one security was escorting out, had been declared dead for 71 years. She opened a secure channel. Her voice dropped to a whisper as she typed, "Urgent. Possible survivor identified. Name: Eli Monroe. Facial match 91%. Requesting verification." She hit send. The message vanished into the encrypted network. Straight to General Nathan Rourke's device. Delane's voice came through her earpiece. "Ma'am, we're clearing him out now." "Negative," she said. "Keep visual. Do not let him leave." "What?" "That's an order, officer." Avery exhaled, staring at the old man now framed in the open doorway. The sunlight behind him made his outline shimmer. He looked like a memory refusing to fade. She whispered under her breath, "This can't be real." Then the doors closed behind him. The crowd scattered, and the museum returned to its quiet hum, completely unaware that history had just walked out its front door. The red classified seal pulsed across the monitor. Lieutenant Avery Cole entered her clearance code and watched as the file unlocked. Lines of faded text filled the screen. Coordinates, radio logs, casualty lists. Every word stamped, Operation Iron Valley, 1952. She scrolled until she found it. Echo Recon Unit, 5th Infantry. 6 names. 5 confirmed killed. 1 Sergeant Eli Monroe marked missing, presumed dead. Avery stared at the screen. The photo from the archives was identical to the one displayed downstairs. The same ridge, the same 6 men, and the one in the center. The same face she had just seen in the atrium. She whispered to herself, "You shouldn't exist." A chime broke her trance. A notification blinked across the top of the screen. Message delivered: Command Group, General Nathan Rourke. Her stomach tightened. That name carried weight. Son of Captain Henry Rourke, commander of Echo Recon, the man who had led those soldiers up Iron Valley and never returned. Avery opened the surveillance feeds. Eli was standing near the flag courtyard, just beyond the security checkpoint. Officer Delane lingered nearby, watching him warily but keeping distance. On camera, Eli moved with quiet purpose. He stopped beside a display case holding old radio equipment. His hand hovered over a rusted handset. He pressed his palm to the glass and murmured something. Avery boosted the mic feed. Through the static came a voice cracked with age, yet disciplined. Echo 3 to command. Still holding position. It wasn't random mumbling. It was protocol. Real radio syntax, decades out of date, spoken with muscle memory. The hair on Avery's arms rose. Whoever this man was, he wasn't pretending. The phone on her desk vibrated. A direct line. She picked it up. "Cole." A filtered voice answered. "This is command. Confirm the report." Was the identification legitimate? "Yes, sir," she said. 91% facial match. Cross-referenced with military records and visual scars. A pause. "General Rourke has been informed. Maintain observation." Then the line cut. Avery switched to the live convoy tracker. 4 armored sedans moved steadily toward the museum. Distance: 3 miles. ETA: 8 minutes. Then, without warning, the lead vehicle broke formation and accelerated. The route changed. New destination, main entrance plaza. ETA: 4 minutes. "Control," she called into her headset. "Confirm convoy reroute." "Confirmed," a voice replied. General Rourke requested direct approach, no explanation. Avery's pulse quickened. Outside, Delane had moved closer to Eli. The old man hadn't noticed. He was staring up at the towering wall of engraved names, lips moving silently. "Delane," she said over the security channel. "Do not engage. Keep visual." Delane's voice crackled back. "Ma'am, I thought we were done here. Change of orders. He stays." "That's from command." "Command. You heard me." She ended the transmission and kept watching. Eli stepped back from the memorial, adjusting the brim of his cap. He looked calm, too calm. Outside, a low hum grew louder. The convoy entered the plaza. Black vehicles rolled to a stop under the museum's stone archway. Uniformed aides spilled out first, scanning the perimeter. Then the rear door opened. General Nathan Rourke stepped out. Tall, composed, his uniform crisp, his expression unreadable, metals catching the morning light. He didn't wait for the aides to form up. He walked straight toward the courtyard. The crowd at the front steps stilled. Reporters turned, confused. This wasn't the planned schedule. General Rourke on site, someone announced over the intercom. Museum staff froze mid-prep. The band stopped tuning. Every lens turned toward the unexpected arrival. Rourke's eyes locked on the solitary figure by the flags. Eli Monroe stood perfectly still, framed against the sky. For a long moment, neither man moved. In the control room, Avery whispered, "He's seen him." Rourke's aide hurried to his side. "Sir, we can secure the subject if you'd like." Rourke didn't answer. His gaze never left Eli. Finally, he said, "No, I'll handle this myself." "Sir," protocol. Overridden. He started walking again, each step echoing across the marble courtyard. Delane backed away instinctively, radio still in hand. The distance between the two men closed. 50 feet. 20. 10. Rourke stopped in front of him. The wind caught their coats, fluttering ribbons and fabric. He studied the old man's face. The scar. The eyes. Recognition flickered there, slow, painful, certain. "Sergeant Monroe," Rourke said quietly. Eli lifted his gaze. "No one's called me that in 70 years. You're hard to find," Rourke replied. Eli's mouth twitched into a faint smile. "I wasn't hiding, just waiting." The plaza fell silent. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. From every window and balcony, people watched the impossible reunion unfold. Rourke took another step forward. "My father was Captain Henry Rourke, Echo Recon." Eli nodded slowly. "I know. He was my commanding officer." Something flickered in the general's face. Shock, grief, reverence all tangled together. He swallowed hard. "My father died at Iron Valley." Eli's voice was steady. "He did. But not before saving the rest of us." The words carried across the plaza like a bell strike. Reporters froze. A camera shutter clicked once, then stopped. Every soldier nearby straightened unconsciously. Rourke's expression softened, the soldier beneath the metals breaking through. "You knew him," he said, almost to himself. Eli nodded. "I carried him off that ridge." Rourke closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them, his voice was rough. "Then you're the only one who knows what really happened." "That's why I came back," Eli said. The general took a breath, grounding himself. "Will you come inside, Sergeant? There are things I need to understand." Eli looked past him toward the museum doors. The crowd had gathered there. Officers, press, civilians, each one pretending not to eavesdrop. He adjusted his cap. "All right," he said, "but not for ceremony." Rourke nodded. "For the truth." He turned toward the museum. The crowd instinctively parted as they walked. One man in uniform, one ghost from another war. Their steps echoed through the marble arches. In the control room, Avery sat frozen. Her hands trembled as she typed a single line into the command log. "General Rourke has made contact. Escorting subject inside. Recommend full recording." She hit send, then exhaled slowly. Whatever happened next would rewrite 70 years of history. And she had just watched it begin. The Hall of Valor stood silent. Security had sealed every door. The noise of the outside world faded, leaving only the hum of the lights and the soft echo of boots. General Nathan Rourke entered first. Sergeant Eli Monroe followed close behind, his cane tapping once for every 2 steps. The rubber tip squeaked faintly against polished marble. Lieutenant Avery Cole waited near the wall, camera tablet recording. But her presence quiet, almost reverent. The great photograph loomed above them. 6 soldiers climbing through fire, sky blackened by smoke. Underneath, 6 brass nameplates gleamed. 5, marked with dates of death. 1 engraved missing in action. Eli stopped, eyes on that final plate. His reflection shimmered against the glass. A ghost facing his younger self. Rourke said nothing. He was still studying the old man who shouldn't exist. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then, Eli broke the silence. "Your father didn't die on that ridge." Rourke's shoulders stiffened. He turned slowly, the words slicing through 70 years of certainty. "What did you just say?" "He made it down," Eli said. "Carried by 2 of us. He lived for 6 hours after the assault, long enough to give his last order." Rourke's jaw tightened. His voice dropped, controlled but sharp. "The record said all of you were killed in action. There was never any report of survivors." Eli's voice stayed steady. "The report wasn't written for the truth. It was written for the public. The brass needed heroes, not witnesses." He turned to the photo, his hand trembling but sure. Those men weren't statues. They were kids. My brothers. The command wanted clean lines and victory speeches. The truth was mud, blood, and chaos. Rourke took a slow breath, the soldier in him fighting the officer. And you expect me to believe you just walked away from all that? That you've been alive this whole time and never said a word? The air in the hall grew tight. Eli met his gaze without flinching. I didn't walk away, General. I crawled. Then I bled. Then I was buried under a name that wasn't mine. His voice stayed calm, but something hard flickered beneath it. You want proof? Ask me how your father took his coffee. Ask me what he kept in his left breast pocket. Ask me the last thing he said before the morphine took him. Rourke's expression wavered. Anger, doubt, grief all warring for control. Anyone could have read that in a file. No, file mentions the photo, Eli said quietly. The one of your mother. Corners bent from being folded and unfolded. He showed it to me the night before the assault. Said he was going to take her dancing when he got home. Rourke went still, his breathing shallow. Eli reached into his coat. From an inner pocket, he drew a small bundle, wrapped in faded olive cloth. He unfolded it carefully, layer by layer, until 2 metal tags glinted under the museum lights. The air in the hall seemed to contract. CPT. Henry Rourke. Echo Recon Unit. Rourke's face went pale. He stepped closer. Eyes locked on the metal. Where did you get those? Eli's tone was calm. From your father's neck. He told me to take them. Rourke's voice cracked. You carried them for 70 years. Eli nodded. I tried to send them once. Couldn't do it. Felt like mailing a failure. He took a breath that shuddered. Your father was hit when the last mortar fell. He shielded a wounded kid named Daniels. I dragged them both off the ridge. We reached the evac line just before the LZ collapsed. Daniels made it. Your father didn't. Rourke swallowed hard. He turned away for a second. Eyes burning. Eli continued quietly, his voice rasping like sandpaper. Before he passed, he gave me 2 orders. First, bring these home. Second, tell the truth about Iron Valley when someone was ready to hear it. He looked up at the photograph. For 70 years, no one was ready. Avery's fingers tightened on her tablet. She felt like she was watching history breathe. Rourke faced him again. Why wait until now? Why come here? Eli's eyes softened, full of exhaustion. I saw the flyers. They were calling this place the Hall of Heroes. I thought maybe it was time to see what kind of heroes we'd become. He gestured to the wall. They got the ridge wrong. They got the story wrong. I just didn't want the lie to be the last thing standing. Rourke stepped closer. After the war, what happened to you? Eli hesitated, eyes drifting. I was evacuated under a false ID. Half my face burned. Medics logged the wrong name. When I healed, the world had already buried me. He gave a faint smile, more weary than bitter. By the time I thought of setting it straight, I saw your mother on TV. She was holding a folded flag. I couldn't take that away from her. She needed peace. So, I stayed dead. The general's expression broke just slightly. You carried all that alone. Eli looked at him. Some burdens belong to one man. Others, to the nation that sent him. Silence filled the room again. Then Rourke stepped forward, holding out his hand for the tags. Eli hesitated before placing them in his palm. The chain slid across their fingers with a faint metallic whisper. The smell of old brass and tarnish hung between them. Rourke turned the tags over, thumb brushing the worn lettering. He blinked away the moisture gathering at the corner of his eyes. I spent my life chasing his legend, he said softly. And all this time, the man who saved him was still out there. Eli shook his head. No one saved anyone that day. We just refused to leave. Rourke straightened. A soldier again. You came back to finish his order. Eli nodded once. I kept my promise. Now it's your turn. The general looked toward Avery. Lieutenant Cole. Sir. Mark this recording as official testimony. Full archive retention. Yes, sir. He turned to the plaque. I want this corrected immediately. Sergeant Monroe's name, remove the missing in action. Replace it with returned. And beneath it, a second line. The man who carried Captain Rourke off the ridge. Avery's voice trembled. Yes, General. Eli stared at him. You don't have to do that. Rourke met his gaze. I do. My father gave you his tags. Now I give you your place. He handed the dog tags back to Eli. Keep them. They belong to the man who earned them. Eli closed his hand around the cold metal. Your father was a good man. He thought the world could stay simple, even in war. Rourke sighed. It never is. Avery watched as the two men stood in front of the wall, the one who survived and the one still searching. For a moment, the lights flickered from the shifting power grid outside, and the photo's reflection danced across the polished floor. Eli exhaled slowly, almost a prayer. "Guess I'm finally done running," Rourke said. "You're not done. You're home." He lifted his hand in a salute. Crisp. Formal. Pure military precision. Eli hesitated, then raised his trembling arm, returning it. Not as an old man saluting authority, but as a soldier acknowledging a promise kept. For a few seconds, time felt suspended, the air between them heavy with everything unsaid. Then Rourke lowered his hand, voice steady again. "Tomorrow, the world will know. The story changes here." Eli nodded. "That's all I ever wanted." Avery's tablet chimed softly, confirming the recording saved to the encrypted archive. Outside, muted thunder rolled across the sky, though no rain followed. Just the low hum of wind whispering against glass. The general slipped the dog tags into his breast pocket, resting a hand over them. He glanced once more at the old sergeant. Then, at the photograph above them. 71 years, he said quietly. Eli gave a small nod. "Tell them it wasn't glory," he murmured. "It was survival," Rourke replied. "Sometimes that's the greater kind." They stood side by side beneath the faces of the dead, 2 generations bound by the same unfinished story, and for the first time since that hill burned, the truth no longer belonged to ghosts. Night descended over the Liberty War Memorial Museum. The crowds were gone, the cameras dark. Only 3 people remained in the Hall of Valor. General Nathan Rourke stood beside Sergeant Eli Monroe before the empty space where the brass plaque had hung. The wall bore its pale outline, a ghost image against polished marble. Lieutenant Avery Cole waited near the wall, tablet dim in her hands. Eli reached into his coat and pulled out a small bundle wrapped in oilcloth. He unfolded it slowly. Inside lay a handful of dark earth, speckled with tiny stones. "From Iron Valley," he said. "I scooped it up before the last evac bird left." He looked up at the wall. "I think it belongs here." Rourke extended his hand. Eli poured the dirt into his palm. It was cool, almost weightless, the faint smell of clay and iron. "Seal this behind the new display," Rourke said to Avery. "Yes, sir." The hum of ventilation filled the silence. Then Eli spoke quietly. "I wasn't the only one who made it out." Rourke froze. Private Daniels lived until 1998. Corporal Yates made it to 2003. Eli's voice stayed steady. "Command sealed us off, made the records clean. They wanted a perfect story, so we became ghosts." Rourke's voice dropped. "And now you're the last." Eli nodded. "The world forgets to listen when you stay quiet too long." Rourke rested a hand on his shoulder. "Then we'll make sure they hear you. But don't make a hero out of me, General. Just make it honest." "That's exactly what I intend to do." Rourke reached into his breast pocket and pulled out a small card. Scribbled something on the back. "My direct line. You're not a ghost anymore." Eli accepted it. "Why does this matter to you so much?" Rourke's answer was simple. "Because you carried my father off that ridge. Because you kept his promise when no one else could." Eli slipped the card into his pocket. "All right, General, I'll keep in touch." He adjusted his coat and took one last look at the photograph. 6 men climbing through fire. Then he turned toward the door, his cane tapping against marble. At the threshold, he stopped, looked back. For an instant, framed by the exit lights, he seemed to stand taller. Not the old man who had walked in that morning, but the soldier who had never left that ridge. Then he stepped outside. Avery descended from the gallery. She stood beside Rourke, staring at the empty doorway. "Sir," she said quietly, "I've been writing about Iron Valley for a year, treating it like a puzzle to solve." She paused. "I didn't understand it was about people until today." Rourke nodded. "The new plaque will be ready in 3 days. Make sure it's accurate. Every word." "Yes, sir." They stood together in silence. Then Rourke did something unexpected. He lifted his hand. A slow, crisp salute, held toward the empty doorway where Eli had disappeared. Avery watched him hold it. 5 seconds. 10. Then he lowered his arm. "What was that for?" she asked softly. "He never saw it," Rourke said. "But I needed to give it." Outside, Eli Monroe crossed the plaza alone, his shadow stretching long across the stone. The night air carried the scent of rain, though no drops fell. He paused once, turned back toward the museum. In the tall windows of the Hall of Valor, he could see 6 reflections. Soldiers climbing through smoke, frozen in glass and memory. For a moment, they seemed to move. Then the museum lights dimmed. The reflections vanished. And Eli Monroe walked into the night no longer carrying the weight of 71 years, but something lighter. The truth. Finally told. The promise. Finally kept. The last echo of Iron Valley. Finally at rest.